May 20th, 1944. Camp Claiborne, Louisiana. The air is thick, wet, and heavy with the smell of pine and sweat. It clings to everything. The canvas tents, the khaki uniforms, the polished leather of the boots. This is the staging ground for Operation Overlord. But for the men of the 320th Barrage Balloon Battalion, the mission feels less like liberation and more like an elaborate, bureaucratic joke. Sergeant Clarence Clancy Johnson, 26, from Harlem, New York, wipes the perpetual film of dampness from his forehead. Before the war, Clancy was a skilled machinist, building subway components, precision work that earned him respect and a solid union card. Here, in the segregated U.S. Army, his skill is ignored. His rank is a formality. His unit is assigned the most ignoble, non-combat role the Army could invent, tending hydrogen-filled balloons. He wears the uniform of a soldier, but he is treated like a servant. This is the central contradiction. Private First Class Elijah Eli Vance, 19, from Birmingham, Alabama, is standing guard duty, staring out at the white-only training fields. Eli is hollow-cheeked, a former sharecropper, who joined up hoping the Army's promise of equality would be better than the Jim Crow reality of his home state. He clutches his M1 Garand, his knuckles white. He dreams of glory, of a moment that proves he is a man, a citizen, worthy of the uniform. He fears the Army intends to keep that chance from him. Everything was a lie. The Army preached democracy, but its barracks were separated by race. It demanded sacrifice, but it segregated the honor. The 320th Barrage Balloon Battalion, an all-black unit, is slated for a crucial but deeply unglamorous job, raising enormous, cable-tethered balloons along the invasion beaches. These barrage balloons, known as silver sausages, trail heavy steel cables designed to snag the wings of low-flying enemy aircraft, forcing German pilots to fly higher into anti-aircraft fire. It is a vital defensive task, but historically, it is not the stuff of heroes. It is support. It is the role the U.S. Army deems suitable for black men. Think about that. The U.S. Army is preparing the largest invasion force in history, but they cannot trust their black troops to be frontline infantry. Documents reveal that the War Department, under pressure from Southern politicians, insisted that black units be placed in auxiliary or support roles, away from the combat glory given to white divisions. The policy was institutional racism, plain and simple. Across the camp, a white platoon sergeant, Douglas "Doug" Harper, 31, from Topeka, Kansas, watches the 320th. Doug, a former construction foreman, believes the official doctrine: black troops are untested, poorly led, and unfit for the stresses of direct combat. He has been taught to believe this. His own 116th Infantry Regiment, 29th Division, the Blue and Gray, named for their roots in both North and South, is trained to storm the beaches. They are the heroes. The 320th are just the crew loading the hydrogen tanks. This is the cognitive dissonance of the age. Doug is fighting Hitler's racism, yet he practices his own. He is fighting for liberty, but denies it to the men 10 yards away. Clancy is keenly aware of this irony. "They want us to shield their boats, Eli," he mutters, watching a white officer walk past without acknowledgement. "They want us to die for them, but not next to them." The order comes down. They are moving out. Destination: England, the staging point for the greatest gamble of the war. June 1st, 1944. They sail for the UK, segregated even on the troop transports. Act Tie, the central event. June 6th, 1944, 06:30 hours. Omaha Beach, Dog Green Sector. The weather is foul. The sea is a churning gray chaos. The air is deafening. Artillery, machine guns, exploding mortars. The sounds merge into a single continuous roar that shreds the eardrums. The initial wave of the 116th Infantry Regiment lands directly into a maelstrom. German fire from the high bluffs of the Atlantic Wall is devastating. The Germans, expecting landings elsewhere, have zeroed in on the beaches. Records show that in the first few hours, some companies of the 116th lose over 90% of their men. The sand turns red. The operation is failing. Sergeant Doug Harper is crawling through the shallow surf, his helmet ringing from shrapnel. His unit is pinned down. Officers are dead. The radio operator is screaming, then abruptly silent. Doug watches his friend, Private First Class Robert "Bobby" Jenkins, 21, from Norfolk, Virginia, take a round in the chest and slump into the water. Everything was a lie. The easy victory, the quick push inland. It's all a bloody, churning myth. This is the true face of combat. It does not care about race. It only cares about survival. Amidst this hell, the landing craft carrying the 320th Barrage Balloon Battalion approaches. Their landing time was 0630. They are right on schedule, the first and only all-black unit scheduled to land on D-Day itself. Sergeant Clancy Johnson steps off the ramp into waist-deep water. The balloon equipment, the heavy hydrogen tanks, the winch gear, the enormous deflated envelopes is cumbersome. They struggle through the surf, dodging floating bodies and damaged equipment. "We gotta get the cables up, fast!" yells Lieutenant Jules Thomas, 29, the commander of the 320T's Company A from Chicago, a lawyer in civilian life. Jules is a stickler for procedure, but now procedure is death. A German mortar shell explodes 20 yards away, tearing into the beach. 2 men from the 320th go down. The rest don't stop. They drag the gear past the dying and the dead of the white units who landed first. Private Elijah Vance stumbles, falling next to a wrecked Higgins boat. He looks up and sees the terrifying, unceasing fire coming from the bluffs. He sees Doug Harper's pinned down unit. He sees the utter chaos. His designated job is to secure the cables. But as a German machine gun nest at the top of a seawall begins systematically cutting down the medics, something snaps in Eli. He sees a discarded M1 Garand on the sand, dropped by a man now being tended to. The uniform means nothing if you don't fight for what it represents.
"Jules, I'm taking the gun," Eli yells over the din. "Eli, stick to the balloon," Jules shouts back, frantically trying to unspool cable. "The air cover isn't the problem yet, Lieutenant. The ground fire is." Eli, without orders, without permission, runs forward, joining the ragged remnants of the 116th Infantry. Think about that. In the worst moments of American military history, a black soldier leaves his non-combat post, risking a court-martial simply to get into the fight he was barred from. Doug Harper, still pinned, sees Eli coming. He sees the black face under the muddy helmet. He is shocked. "Get back! Where the hell are you going?" Doug screams, thinking Eli is confused. Eli ignores him. He spots a cluster of German MG-42 fire tracers. He drops, reloads, and begins laying down covering fire. He is a crack shot, honed by years of hunting small game in Alabama. His accurate fire provides the crucial, momentary pause the 116th needs. "He's giving us cover, damn it!" someone from the 116th shouts. Jules Thomas, watching from his position, sees the tactical necessity. He orders a few of his more capable men to drop the heavy balloon gear and grab rifles from the casualties. The 320th Barrage Balloon Battalion morphs instantly. Their defensive mission becomes an offensive one. They are now an ad hoc infantry unit. Clancy Johnson, the machinist, is one of them. He and 3 others run forward, not with hydrogen tanks, but with rifles. They use the momentum Eli created. They are disciplined, organized, and focused on the objective, getting past the wall. Doug Harper watches as Clancy, with the precision of a machinist, clears a sniper nest with 2 clean shots. Doug, finally seeing a path, shouts, "Move! Follow the colored boys!" This is a pivotal moment. The moment when doctrine dissolves into survival. The moment when the supposed heroes of the 116th follow the men they were taught to dismiss. By 1,000 hours, the beachhead is secured enough for more landings, thanks in part to the impromptu infantry work of the 320th. They have suffered casualties, but they have fought with a ferocity born of a double necessity, to win the war and to prove their humanity. They then return to their original necessary job, scrambling to raise the huge silver balloons, their rifles slung over their backs. The air defense is now critical. They secure the beach, both from German soldiers and German planes. Act TT, Aftermath and Transformation. June 7, 1944. H3 Sector, Omaha Beach. The immediate aftermath is exhaustion, grief, and a strange new solidarity. The 320th continues its work, raising the balloons that now dominate the sky, their cables creating a lethal air net. Documents reveal that the official records of the 116th Infantry Regiment noted valiant action by supporting personnel, but intentionally obscured the race of the men who provided the crucial covering fire. The U.S. military machine was already at work, sanitizing the history. Everything was a lie. The men who saved the beach would be erased from the glorious narrative. Sergeant Doug Harper is sitting on a crate, shaking, staring at the Atlantic. He sees Clancy Johnson walking by, his uniform torn, his face smeared with grease and mud. "Hey, Johnson," Doug calls out.
Clancy stops. The look in his eyes is not resentment, but weary defiance. Doug struggles to speak. Your man, Vance, and you bought us the time. He takes off his helmet. We'd all be floating if you hadn't broken ranks. Clancy just nods. We broke ranks to get to the front, Harper. You broke ranks to follow us. This simple exchange represents the breaking of a lifetime of ingrained prejudice. Doug realizes that the enemy was not the black soldier, but the system that taught him to fear and dismiss that soldier. Think about that. In the crucible of the greatest battle, the lie of racial inferiority was instantly incinerated. In a letter dated July 12, 1944, Doug Harper wrote home to his sister in Topeka. The bravest men I saw on that beach were not the ones carrying the flags. They were the men of the 320th, the balloon unit. They fought like lions when the 116th was breaking. I always believed what the training told us, that they were only fit for support. I was wrong, Kate. Completely, monstrously wrong. I can never look at another colored man the same way again. Lieutenant Jules Thomas receives an official reprimand for allowing his men to engage in unscheduled infantry action. The memo, dated July 20th, 1944, warns against deviation from assigned mission. The Army acknowledges the success of the mission, but punishes the initiative that ensured it. The institutional evil remains intact. Clancy Johnson is awarded a Bronze Star for heroic achievement in connection with military operations against the enemy. The citation focuses strictly on his work raising the balloons under fire, not the covering fire he provided. The honor is given, but the truth is meticulously edited. Private Eli Vance survives the war. In a 1946 interview with a small, black-owned newspaper in Birmingham, he is quoted as saying, "I didn't run for a medal. I ran for the right to earn it. I ran so that man from Kansas or that man from Virginia could never again look at me and tell me I wasn't a man. That beach was the day I earned my citizenship, even if the government won't mail me the papers yet." The transformation of these white soldiers, like Doug Harper, was the immediate, unwritten consequence of D-Day. They returned home, deeply shaken, having witnessed the failure of their indoctrination. They had fought shoulder to shoulder with men the U.S. Army told them were inferior. This individual moral courage and subsequent transformation would plant seeds that would blossom into the civil rights movement a decade later. They saw the lie exposed by the machine gun fire on the blood-soaked sand. Everything was a lie. Acti Voi, legacy and contemporary meaning. The story of the 320th Barrage Balloon Battalion's combat role on D-Day was deliberately suppressed for decades. Official histories focused on the white units of the 1st and 29th Divisions, giving them sole credit for overcoming the catastrophic initial resistance at Omaha.
The suppression of the story was not malicious in every instance. It was simply systemic. The segregated army could not admit that its most vital victory was secured by men it had officially deemed unfit for frontline combat. The truth began to surface thanks to the relentless work of researchers. African-American historian Dr. George Washington began collecting oral testimonies in the 1970s. In 1998, British historian Anthony Burgess published his comprehensive study, The Double V Beachhead, which explicitly cited the unit's unofficial combat action, cross-referencing veteran testimonies with declassified records showing the ammunition expenditure and sudden tactical shift in the Dog Green sector. Today, there is growing recognition. In 2009, a modest memorial plaque was unveiled at the National D-Day Memorial in Bedford, Virginia, which briefly mentions the 320T's presence. It is a start, but a far cry from the glory given to the units they saved. The story matters now, not just as a historical footnote, but as a lesson in cognitive dissonance. We must confront the ways in which institutions, government, education, media, tell comfortable, simple stories that erase the complex, uncomfortable truth of marginalized people. This is the legacy of the 320th, ordinary people denied their full humanity, who stepped into a moral vacuum and risked everything to save the lives of the very men who denied them their rights. They didn't just fight the Nazis, they fought the lie of supremacy on the world stage. In a final interview before his death in 2005, Clarence Johnson reflected on the irony of it all. "They said we were just there to hold balloons. They wrote the books that way. But the men on that beach, the ones who were there, they knew the truth. They saw who saved their necks. History is not what you write down. History is what you do. We secured the beach. We were soldiers. That is the only final truth."